You guys know I'm actually a huge fan of the show Foul Territory with Scott and Eric and our next guest, among others, as he is, of course, a former All-Star catcher, a World Series champion, and it's a pleasure for us to welcome into the program AJ Pierzynski, who's with us now here on GCR. AJ, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
No problem. How you guys doing?
Everything is good other than, the baseball game last night. Everything is good here in Baltimore. Before I get to, because a lot I want to cover with you, all of the stuff between the Orioles and the Yankees last night, like it started with the, Soto running into Jordan Westberg and then a couple of pitches inside. None of it came off like egregious to me, right? Like none of it came off like I think, but it just seems like in baseball, whenever anything is out of place, we always escalate things and make it seem like it's life and death. What did you make of all of that? Is there any reason to think that that carries over?
No, I don't think anything was intentional. I mean, obviously, I saw the hit pitches and Judge. I don't think we've heard whether he's injured or not. But I think Judge got hit, Glaber got hit. The Soto thing. I think sometimes, especially when it's a rivalry a little bit, which the Orioles and the Yankees has now become because the Orioles are good, things get made out of nothing. And you got to pitch Judge inside, you got to pitch Glaber inside, and I don't think it was anything egregious. I just think it's part of the game, especially in a division where you have to play each other so many times. I think you run into these kind of things, and they become bigger than what they should be, and we'll see tonight, but I think there will be no carryover, and tonight's a new game.
I appreciate that, and I certainly hope that's the case, and I certainly hope the Orioles' offense comes to play. It won't be easy against Garrett Cole. I know you guys talked a lot about it on your show yesterday, and one of the reasons why I was not as quite, champing at the bit as everyone else was for this series between the Orioles and Yankees, because I looked and I saw it's Albert Suarez, it's Cade Povich, Cole Irvin going for the Orioles, and it feels to me, and Suarez was a mess last night. He's been a nice, pleasant surprise, but I think there's a limit to what it is that you can expect from it. It feels to me like that screamed out the Orioles desperately need to acquire another top-ish starting pitcher if they really want to make a run towards winning a World Series.
Well, I agree, especially if Bradish is out for a long time. I mean, they've already lost Means. They've lost Wells, right? I never always say his wrong. I want to say Colombo, but that's not right.
Danny
Danny
Coulombe,
Colombo.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I have a buddy that's named Colombo, so it always just comes out. Those guys are injured right now, and then Dean Kramer, once he comes back. So they definitely need to look at the trade market and figure out. Now, they went out and got Corbin Burns, which ended up being a great trade so far for them. And also, I mean, listen, for the Brewers, too. Let's not forget the Brewers are Joey Ortiz is doing great things for the Brewers. So, I think the Orioles need to go out and make some sort of a move. I don't know what that is, but they definitely need a starter. And then, because you can't count on Burns and Grayson Rodriguez 2 out of 5 days. You need other guys to step up. And right now, if you look at the pitching matchups in this series, now I know Grayson and Corbin are pitching. Nestor, Garrett Cole, and I believe Luis Gil are pitching for the Yankees. And then, it's a different story for the Orioles. So I definitely think they need to go out and make a move if those guys aren't going to be healthy, especially if they want to make a deep run in the postseason.
And again, to your point, like it feels like to me, this is. I'm not trying to say it's one this year or bust for the Orioles because we all know like the talent is there and is going to be there for some time. We'll see if they extend some of these guys at some point. But like you went out and made the move that you did for Corbin Burns. Like this year has to matter. He's here for this year. You guys know you had him on the show. He told you like. I'm going to free agency. This is the way it's going to go. Like, you have to try to capitalize on this 1 year that you have with Corbin Burns.
Well, 100%. And every year that goes by that you don't, get to the World Series or win is another year you lose a million and all these guys.
AJ Pierzynski is with us here on GCR, as he is, of course, one of the hosts of Foul Territory, which you can watch every day. AJ, I know you had been talking last week.
Lost, so.
Sorry, AJ, I think we lost you there for a second. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I got you. Sorry.
No worries about it. You were talking about, obviously the nature of this being the 1 year that the Orioles have with Corbin Burns.
Yeah, and also it's another year where you lose control of Adley and lose control of Gunnar, right? Because if they're not going to sign them, then you just keep losing years.
Yep.
And that is not a way to run this organization because you built for these moments, right? The last few years, you tanked and made all these draft picks, and these are the moments you're looking for. So you got to go out and do something, do everything in your power to make this a winner. Because right now, the city of Baltimore is excited, fans are excited. You got a new owner who's going to put money in. So I think now is the time to strike. The problem is who's out there and who can you go get with, because it's a seller's market, because there's not enough teams, especially in the National League, that are
they're
completely out of it that don't think they have a chance.
Yeah, the entire league is within like 2 games of a wild card spot at the moment. It really is wild. To your point, obviously everybody's like pointing at the Chicago White Sox because that's the one team that that is definitely out of it and is willing to make trades. The pitchers that stand out are Fetty and Crochet. Everybody's hot and bothered about Crochet, and it's going to cost you a lot. I actually wonder, and it was brought up to me by your friend Eric Kratz, that given his innings concern, would that be the wrong direction for the Orioles to look for a guy that would help them win the World Series? Might it actually be more plausible for them to be in the Eric Fetty market than to be in the Garrett Crochet market?
It depends on what you're looking for, because nobody knows what limit Crochet's on, right? Because he hasn't ever been a starter, and he did have Tommy John not long ago. So I think that's the big question mark, is what kind of innings limit is he on? Because the big thing is, will the White Sox burn up those innings and be like, oh yeah, we'll trade him, even though knowing that he's down to his last few innings, and other teams might not know that. That'd be sneaky and, not cool of them to do, but
right.
I mean, teams have done worse, right, in trades. And then Fetty's been good, man. He was a KBO MVP and Cy Young last year, so you kind of know what you're going to get, and he'll go out and take the ball every fifth day, and he knows the DC area, obviously pitching for the Nats. So, I mean, listen, and he's, what he's making next year. So that to me is the more valuable piece right now. Now, does Crochet have a higher upside? Absolutely, but
right.
not if he's on a innings limit.
Yep. No, you're torn, right? Because you're looking for a guy that could maybe be a top of the rotation guy post Corbin Burns, and Crochet might be that guy. But you're also trying to win a World Series right now, and I don't know how much he helps in that capacity. You brought up before, because I also know that you think the Orioles need to work on the bullpen, but you brought up Adley a second ago, and I'd love to get your perspective. Like Adley's numbers this year, when he's catching versus when he's the DH, it's insane. Like, his numbers as a DH are through the roof. Like, an over 1,000 OPS, it's crazy to me. You are certainly someone who understands this. Does it make sense to you that Adley is that much better of a hitter when he's the DH as opposed to when he's behind the plate?
Yeah. I mean, for me, listen, I felt like it was the other way. I felt like I was a better hitter when I was catching because I was more involved in the game.
Interesting.
But Adley's been DHing probably his whole life, right? We never really had a DH when I was a kid, or coming through the minor leagues, or even when I was in the big leagues, we always had like a bona fide DH. So I always, in order to get in the lineup, I had to catch. So I just became used to it. And then when a few times I got to DH, I was like, man, this feels like 4 pinch hits. But he's used to it, and it makes sense, because if you're used to it, and he doesn't have the mental toll of having to catch and have to deal with the pitchers, he's just like, all right, I got to go hit, and that's my job. So yeah, it totally makes sense, because he's that good. Also, that makes pretty darn good.
Right.
I mean, he's a really good player. So it's not like you're taking some guy that's could be in AAA or AA out there and sticking him in the DH spot. I mean, this guy's an above average hitter no matter where you put him. So I mean, it totally makes sense, and I can see why he'd be better this way. But at the end of the day, it's 1 year, right? So we'll see. But I mean, listen, catching takes a toll on your body mentally and physically. So yeah, it's probably a break for him mentally, and he just go out there and try and swing it.
AJ, you guys were talking last week about the Orioles bullpen, and I get that we're almost going to get to a point where say they need to do everything, but it's the other part that I think as good as Craig Kimbrel and as well as he's looked as he's bounced back from his early season struggles and he's put together a really nice stretch here in the last couple of weeks, I too have like serious concerns that Craig Kimbrel at 35 years old is a guy that you're going to be able to trust with the workload that perhaps will be necessary to be that specific ninth inning guy when you go try to win a World Series. It feels like, based on what we saw a year ago in Philadelphia, I don't know how you could have that trust that he's going to be that guy.
Well, you just hope he's hot when you go into the postseason, right? Because he goes through those downs, and the downs are really low. But when he's hot and he's going well, I mean, he still does what Craig Kimbrel does, which is just punch dudes out left and right. So you just hope when it comes time for him to in the postseason in the ninth inning and it's a 1-run game, he's on a high. But I love Craig Kimbrel. For me, he's a Hall of Famer. And he's got so many saves and so many special things. He was a tough at bat. But yeah, you also got to take pressure off of him, right? I know you have Cano and you have some other guys down there, but man, think about if you could get a Ryan Presley or somebody like that could come in and give you the eighth or maybe save a game if you need them to. It's just such a boost for everybody because it slots everybody back to just a little bit less pressure. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, it goes back to who's out there though. Who do you look at and say, man, this guy can help us. This guy can help us. This guy's worth it. That's the question for me is who's worth it, because the Orioles have had a pretty decent bullpen this year. And, when Craig's good, obviously the bullpen is better. But, who's out there they can go get, and what do they think they need to make a deep run? And that's what Mike Elias gets paid the big bucks for.
By the way, the point that you made there, where maybe it's not that you specifically have to get a different closer, but just someone else who could be a closer to try to limit the workload that you're asking of Craig Kimbrell. I'll listen to that wholeheartedly, right? That could be the way that you go about skinning this cat. Before I let you go, AJ, if I could, because it was such a big story yesterday, the news that the AAA is going to go to the challenge system in all games now moving forward, and it seems like that's going to be the final stop before it comes to the major league level. What's the number of challenges? Like, how do we, if we accept that it's going to be the challenge system, how do we make sure we do it the best way moving forward as far as how many challenges a team gets?
I don't know the number because I haven't really paid that much attention to it. I think they get 3 in the minor league.
So apparently in the international league, it's only going to be 2, which seems like that's almost like, that's crazy to me that it would only be 2.
Yeah, that does seem crazy to me. Now, 2 seems insane to me, but wow. Yeah, but then how do you choose who gets them? Let's say, no offense to Cedric Mullins or Mateo, they're hitting 9th in your order, right? How do you make those? How do you make the distinction who gets what, right? Who gets those badly rushmen? Use those 2, and Mateo's wrong or someone's wrong. McCann's wrong, and you give it the tap and they're wrong. You lose your 2, and then the 9th inning you have Adley up and he gets 1, and he wants to challenge and he's got nothing.
Right.
How do you make those? How do you make that distinction?
That's why it feels like it should be at least like 1. To me, it feels like it should be 1 per inning. And I get that somebody would say, hey, we don't want to keep stopping the game so much. Well, these don't seem like they're taking all that long. I don't think this suddenly makes the games go back to being 3.5 hours long, and not everybody's going to use a challenge in every inning. It just feels like you're going to end up putting yourself in a position where you think that you're doing something to better the game, and then you're still going to have like marquee balls and strikes calls that go miss because the team's out of challenges at that point if you don't have enough.
No, I agree. And again, it's going to be interesting to see the strategy of it. And I like what they've done. I mean, it's fast. I mean, the challenges I've seen it go fast.
Right.
They go by pretty quick. I mean, they tap their head and it's gone pretty quick. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I want to see how it plays out in AAA. Now, AAA isn't the be all, but you'd think they would have a good idea after a year or 2 of this. But I don't want to see umpires go completely away where they just go to total, ABS where it's automatic balls and strikes. I'd rather have a challenge system where we at least can get a little bit of arguing.
You do. Players love that part of the game, right? Like you can't give that up entirely. You got to be able to. You got to be able to turn around and jaw with somebody, right? You
got to be able to argue something with somebody. I mean, we're taking away everything. Replay's taking away all the calls in the field. We always had balls and strikes. Well, now they take that away. What's left?
It's so funny you say that. I remember after replay came in, Buck Showalter at one point just sort of out of nowhere said to us, like, I really miss yelling with those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just part of the game. AJ, of course, Foul Territory every day. You can watch live on YouTube. Is there anything else that we can plug for you, man?
No, just tune in on Fox on Saturdays. Where am I this weekend? I got to think. I'm in San Diego, Milwaukee, San Diego, and then next week I'm in Baltimore for when the Rangers come to town.
Awesome.
So, look forward to a trip there.
Awesome. Yeah. Look forward to that. Can't wait to have you here. AJ Pierzynski, thank you for taking the time for us this morning, man. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.